Yeah, there's a few of us with the red beards.
I think both my brothers, when they grow it out, they go red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's common, especially up north.
It is. Well, in my mum's from up north, and her brother's a redhead. She's blondie. Her sister's a blondie. So there's a lot of
the fair skin.
I've got people on my mum's side that are like bright, not red like that. I'm talking like fire red.
Oh yeah. They exist.
They exist. They're like unicorns.
Yeah.
In the Lebanese culture,
they're more common than people realize.
Yeah.
Because most people expect all Lebanese people to look like the rest of sort of the Arab world.
Look like me.
Yeah. Yeah, the more sort of traditional. Well, I guess we've already started, but Anthony, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. We were meant to record last week. I was pretty unwell. We cancelled last minute. You were generous enough to come in. So,
good to see you feeling better.
Thank you.
You are feeling better, right?
I am. I definitely am.
God.
And I've been looking forward to this conversation for some time.
Me too.
So it's awesome to have you here. If you want to just give us a little, what's the short spiel? Who is Anthony Salame?
Stand-up comedian, radio presenter, I guess, children's book author, and just every day try to be a better guy, I guess, to sum it up. But yeah, I like to wear many different hats.
Yeah.
Do different things, keep it fresh.
And you started in comedy? Is that
in comedy?
Well,
I actually started in theatre.
Right.
I did. I mean, I attempted comedy before theatre, but it went terribly wrong. So I gave that a break for a while, and it just kind of fell back into it. But the passion was always there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both your parents are Lebanese, right?
Lebanese immigrants. Yeah.
How did it fly wanting to go into anything sort of arts related, whether it be comedy?
I'm now married with a child. I don't even know if it's flying at the moment. No, obviously, immigrant parents, entertainment was never an option for them growing up. So it was, left of field for sure.
Was it never an option because of the whole, it doesn't pay bills, or the entertainment industry is evil?
It's a game, right? This is what you do in your spare time when you're not working. Tell jokes and make people laugh. This is not a way of life. This is not a way to make a living. But I was adamant, and obviously with anything in the entertainment industry, or if you're trying to follow a passion, I didn't just say I'm going to start comedy and then I'm living off doing stand-up comedy. You're doing free gigs for years. And I was working 2-3 jobs until you can do it full-time, So, and that was, maybe 7-8 years in.
How old were you when you went down this path? Was it like sort of fresh out of high school? This is what I want to do? Or did you go to uni? What was your...
No, I didn't go to uni. I couldn't get into uni. I failed high school miserably.
Yeah.
I just, and I wasn't, it's not that I wasn't intelligent or I didn't get the work. I didn't like it. I just couldn't sit in a classroom and just concentrate, I know it's probably cliche, but, Anthony just needs to apply himself and concentrate at every single report card, same kind of thing. So, I left school and I was lost. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I wanted to do. Obviously, I had that dream of, watching Eddie Murphy Delirious when I was 14 years old. And I said, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
But I kind of, got lost and tried a few different things and tried a few different courses and dropped out. And then I tried stand-up comedy, just like an open mic night at the Sydney Comedy Store. And I thought, this is it. I'm going to do this 5-minute set and it's going to be the start of my career. It's going to launch me. And I died in the ass. I ate it. I did maybe like 2 minutes on stage and walked off. It was terrible. It was a terrible experience.
I mean, it takes a lot of balls to even get up there in the first place. How old would you have been at that time?
Maybe 18, 19 years old. Maybe 19 years old.
And what, the jokes just didn't land?
I was just so nervous, I was working at Foot Locker at the time. I invited this, this girl that I had a crush on, and she brought her friends, and my brothers and their mates came, and I invited everyone thinking this is my debut onto the world stage, but young and naive.
Did your family laugh at least? Or?
No, that would just try to give words of encouragement afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, it was okay. It was okay. Yeah. I knew it wasn't okay.
There's also the chance it was probably not as bad as you thought it was because you expected it to be so good. Some big launch into the career.
Yeah.
So then what? You sort of took a little break after that and focused more on theatre.
I mean, I just took a break completely. Theatre wasn't even in the picture, and then maybe 12 months later, still a lost kid, not knowing which direction he's going in life. I think I was about 20 years old. And I applied to audition for a theatre school. And, I can actually remember when I told my father, Dad, listen, I've tried this, I've tried that. I want to give theatre a go. And, he's just like, no, this is not a career path. And I'm like, listen, I'm willing to do other jobs and work other things. Just if you could support me on this. It's crazy. I mean, in our culture, and you probably know, some people would think in some cultures at 19 years old, 20 years old, you're ready to go leave the house and live on your own. But I was still looking for my father's approval, And he said,
does it ever really go away in our culture?
It doesn't.
That's the question.
Yeah, it doesn't.
He's probably telling you, sorry, are your parents still alive and
they
with
are,
you?
thank God.
Yeah, probably still telling you how to raise your kid then.
Oh, right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely right on the money. I auditioned for this this theatre class, and I took an unorthodox approach from the start. I remember you had to do a monologue, and I remember sitting in like the hallway of the college where it was at in North Sydney, and all the students or potential students, they're rehearsing their Shakespeare monologues and Macbeth, and I had remembered the restaurant scene from Scarface. That was my monologue when he was. Are you familiar with the movie Scarface?
Yeah, of course.
That second night to the back guy. That whole monologue. So, little bit of left to center approach, but I got in. But it was a little bit of a pattern. I dropped out after 6 months. I was like, teach me how to be an actor. I was doing voice classes, and my voice teacher's like, all right, now we're going to run in a circle and we're going to leap and say, to open up the diaphragm. And I'm like, bro, like, this is not acting. I assumed, now, to this guy's credit, it was probably an exercise that would have benefited me some way. But, once again, young and naive, it's like, well, why aren't you teaching me how to be a movie star? That's what I thought this class was about. You
were going to be the next Aussie Scarface, and they're making you jump up and down.
Yeah, exactly. So I dropped out of that, and coincidence, the very next day I got a phone call from somebody asking me if I wanted to be a part of a theatre production. Just a friend of a friend that had mentioned that I was studying, and this guy's a funny guy, you should check him out. So I went and met these guys the following day, and we worked towards a theatre production that was on at the Enmore Theatre. And from never doing comedy or performing ever to performing in front of 1,500 people for the first time was pretty bizarre experience.
Yeah. And how did that experience go?
It was great. I mean, it was great for me, a young 20-year-old that's performing in front of all these people. Once again, naive. I thought this is I'm getting all the offers after I do this show. But it was fun. There was a lot of technical glitches in this show, but it was great because I got to be a part of the writing process of this show, kind of constructing it together and then performing it. But it was a one night only performance. But it was fun, and it was a snowball effect. That kind of leads to other work, as it does with most industries. But I never looked back, really.
And so you stayed in entertainment pretty much from then.
Pretty much, yeah. I got asked to do another show called From Lebanon with Love. After that, and
so that was the next show.
That was the next show.
That's probably what most Lebanese Australians would know you from.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first show I did was called The Godmother. That was the show I was talking about. And then, Rob Shahady and Tahi, they saw me in this show and they said, would you want to be a part of this Lebanese theatre bilingual production? I said, yeah, I'd love to be. You know, these guys were my heroes. I grew up watching Fat Pizza and, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So working with these guys that you kind of used to watch on TV was a bit of a cool experience. And, you know, obviously we became really good friends. But Tahir, as most people know him as a brilliant stand-up comic, he was the director of that show. So that was my way into stand-up. I remember asking him, hey, bro, I've just got a few jokes. I've tried stand-up once before. It went terrible. I just love your feedback on what you think of these jokes or where I went wrong. And he just said to me, I've got a gig in 2 weeks. You just do 5 minutes before me. And I'm like, I don't know. He's like, you've been on stage now in front of 1,000 people at a time. You'll be fine. And that experience on stage did help my confidence a little bit. But and that's kind of how it happened. Just I remember doing that first gig with Tahir, opened up for him, and that went really well. And that's it. Never looked back.
Were your parents coming to these shows?
They didn't go to that first one, but eventually they did, yeah. Well, they were going to the theatre shows. Yeah. They usually go to the big ones. They don't really go to the club shows and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but they're great, man. They support me, and you know, I'm like 20 years in now, so they're pretty proud, and especially when I do things for the community, the Lebanese community, or you know, even now with my children's books, you know, they love that kind of stuff. So I think I finally got their approval. Yeah, finally.
So when you left school and you obviously started to dabble in entertainment, you had your comedy show that didn't go well, and then the whole theatre timeline. At what point did your work in entertainment, whether it be comedy or in theatre, that became your job? You didn't have to work the other jobs anymore. Like you could just focus on your craft sort of thing.
I think I was about 27 or 28 years old. So I was, for 7 years, I was doing 2-3 jobs at a time. Pizza delivery guy, I worked at Foot Locker, selling printers, digging holes on the job site, delivering dry cleaning. I did everything. Whatever, wherever I could get paid, you know, I pretty much did it. Whatever kind of job I could get, and just because I had no other career goals, there was no other. It was like comedy. This is what it was for me. This is what it was going to be, and I don't think any other time. I never thought to myself, "Oh, I want to be a real estate agent, or I want to be a developer," or both my brothers are electricians. You know, I kept getting, go do a trade. It was never really an option for me.
There's just 3 of you?
Just 3 of us.
Yeah.
So
it takes some time then before
it does.
It starts sort of snowballing a little bit.
And, you know, I'm 20 years in, maybe 19, and I'm still learning. I'm still trying to get better. And I'm still working on my craft, still recording my shows and going home and listening to the audio and trying to, you know, make jokes better. And it's an ongoing thing, I guess, with any kind of job, you know?
Yeah.
Always trying to get better.
Yeah. And when did you go down the whole children's book route? What's the story there?
That was just recently. I think 2020, COVID maybe was the first book that I released. You know, I always wanted to release a children's book. I don't know if it's just some fascination, but I didn't know what kind of children's book I wanted to release. And then I was just writing down some ideas for an ABC book, and you know, for the different letters of what each letter would represent. And I just started writing down letters like good values and things that I'd like to teach my kids one day. Not comedy related, no fart jokes or anything like that. And it kind of, after writing all these letters like, you know, kindness and unity and family and love, and it just kind of made me realize all these things that I was writing, it kind of came from my Christian or Catholic upbringing.
Yeah, right.
So I thought to myself, maybe I should do a faith-based children's book. There's not much of that going on. I mean, there is a little bit, but so I gave it a crack, and ended up writing this book, J is for Jesus, and then did my second one, and it's very different than anything I've done, but it's very rewarding because now I go out to schools and I read them to the kids, and we do Q&A, and I teach them, about the faith a little bit, and ask them questions about who they think Jesus is, and it's
it's become your way to live and teach the faith,
to give back.
Yeah.
I mean, we all got to do a little bit. Even you with your podcast, you have a fan base, an audience, and some of the topics you discuss, and I love how real you are and how honest you are. So
yeah, thanks.
I think that's important, and as a Christian man, I think it's important that no matter what we do, we got to give God His glory. So
yeah, for sure.
So whether you be an electrician or you be a comedian, or we all got skills where we can kind of give back. And if you have a trade, maybe that's assisting your local community or helping them out. Or, but yeah, I think COVID was a big. It just shook everything up. It was a time of reflection, I think, for a lot of people, and it just felt right to release a book like that. And it's kind of snowballed into something that's taken up quite a bit of my time, and it's leading to something bigger and better, God willing, but we'll see how we go. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah. Well, honestly, 5 years ago, I would have never looked at sort of children's books as a thing worth doing at all.
Yeah.
But what sort of changed my mind is we started to see a lot of things coming into children's books.
Totally.
Which are horrible. It's like, man, when you turn the page, you don't know, when the mystery lesbian's going to pop up and
100%.
and do what she does. So, and that's just the way it is. And a lot of people don't want to have books that are so politically charged with agendas, and they just want to go back to teaching those values, like you said. So,
100%. It feels like that those agendas are sneaking their way through everything these days, and it just pisses me off. Like, let kids be kids, Don't try and confuse them so much. So, and that's something I do with my books. Like, I can understand that stories from the Bible and a lot of the passages could go over their heads and could be a little bit overwhelming for them. So, like, I just simplify these stories, and put them in a way for the kids to understand. So.
Yeah, well, what's the simple message that you can extract for them?
Exactly.
And the kids don't need complicated messages.
They don't,
which is the problem that we have now.
Yeah,
right,
and everyone's pushing it. Like, I worked in radio, and, everyone's pushing it, man. It's, for people to turn around and say, you're a conspiracy theorist. There's no, it's no conspiracy theory. This is
it's out there.
It's a real thing that's happening.
Walk into most primary schools or daycare centers or libraries and look at some of the books in there. It doesn't take an inspector to.
Well, even like celebrities, that Yumi Steins or whatever, she wrote a book that
Who's
said
that?
I don't know, she's probably on some reality show that's and she released a book. It was a little bit controversial in the last year. I think I was still working on air when it happened. But she released a book saying this is suitable for like 11-year-olds, and it's teaching them how to give oral sex. And I'm like, where have we come as a society? I don't care about your political stance or what faith you are. It's nothing to do with that.
Yeah, surely we can agree on this.
Yeah, surely we can agree to just let children be children and stop trying to corrupt them.
Yeah, I came across this video on Instagram a few days ago, and basically this dad, he had 3 of his children, girls of varying ages, probably up to maybe 4 or 3, I'm not sure the ages, and they're all laying down on the bed, and it's just some ritual he does before they sleep where he sort of like pats them down and then shakes them against the bed, and they all start giggling.
Okay.
And I watched this video. I'm like, oh, that's cute. His dad's playing with his kids before they sleep. Then you go to the comment section, and it's like, oh, his hand placement on their chest is inappropriate, and we've all seen fathers that abuse. And it's like, dude, man, the guy's just playing with his kids.
I know. It's
like,
crazy.
It's just this over-sexualization of so many basic actions.
100%
between parents and children, it's just crazy. It's just crazy how sensitive the climate has gotten,
and how quick.
Yeah,
it's come. It's like 5, maybe 10 years ago, this was unheard of. Now it's the norm. People on television getting airtime talking about you got to ask your kids permission before you change their nappy. Obviously, you're not a parent. Like, this doesn't make sense. It's bizarre, but the mainstream, if you want to call it that, are kind of going along with it. That's what makes it hard for, I think, so many people, so many parents to talk up about these things. They're afraid that, we're just going to get slammed by the majority because that's what they make us feel like. The majority thinks this way. When the majority doesn't think this way, know?
Well, ideally, there shouldn't. When our kids are on the line, who cares if we're slammed?
100%.
It's very like we have to really think about whose opinion do we actually care about.
Exactly.
So, you're saying 5-10 years ago this was unheard of. I would say it was heard of, but in the universities.
Okay.
That's like the universities it's the breeding ground for these ideas.
Yeah.
So back when I was in uni, 2014, 15, 16, 17, all of these ideas were buzzing. But outside of uni, it just wasn't a thing, So
what kind of ideas were you talking about?
So just the obsession, for example, the over-sexualization, the whole trans movement as a whole.
Yeah.
All of that was a big thing. The whole use the right pronouns and dead naming and all these concepts that we hadn't heard of 5 years ago in mainstream society. It was all already happening at the universities.
So back then, when you heard this kind of stuff, like what were your thoughts?
Well, you almost feel crazy because you're sort of looking out into mainstream. Like, is anyone else seeing what's going on here? And they've got no idea.
Yeah.
And I was quite involved with the Catholic Society, and we were just butting heads all the time with these groups. These socialist groups that are they had a petition every day for something. There was always something to protest.
These guys have anything better to do with their lives? They're always
some
protesting.
of them are actually paid full time to just be on campus and advocate for whatever crap they advocate for. So it wasn't just I heard it. It was like we were sort of constantly fighting against it.
Yeah.
We would hold talks. Obviously, being a Catholic society, we're going to advocate for what the Catholic Church teaches. And the Catholic Church has some teachings which a lot of people aren't fans of.
Of course.
Whether it be on abortion, on contraception, on marriage, those three, and euthanasia, those 4 probably being the most controversial off the top of my head right now. And it was the same back then.
Yeah.
It was the same back then. Just constant. We would hold a talk about anything related to contraception, we're getting protested. Anything related to marriage, we're getting protested.
It just blows my mind. Why do they want to protest? Like, why can't people have their own opinions? Like, I don't hate anybody that wants to have same-sex relations with anyone else. I don't hate anybody that, identifies as trans or whatever. Like, I'll let you live your life. Let me live my life. This is what frustrates me, that they feel like they have to say something, or whoever it is that, is constantly protesting or constantly like, I've never protested in my life. Have you ever protested?
I have.
Yeah. Tell me when.
I protest. I was part of the protests when they were going to pass the abortion bill in 2019.
Oh, God bless you.
That was probably, I think, the only time. We organised a few large-scale ones in Martin Place and then in Hyde Park. They were massive, though. There was like probably 15,000 people.
I've probably just been too lazy to protest. Yeah. I actually boycotted for the first time in my life just this year, recently.
Oh, yeah? What'd you boycott?
The Olympics.
Oh,
yeah. I've never boycotted anything.
Yeah. But
the
French will do that to you, right? So
yeah.
The French can take something which you're perfectly content watching.
I love sports, man.
Yeah.
I was excited to watch the Olympics, but I don't know, man. It's after seeing what they did in the open ceremony, I can't support this. I can't. I have to. There's a time and a place where, we got to stand up and say enough is enough. And whether me not watching it did anything, maybe not, but just for me as a person with a soul, like I just.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's not purely about, Anthony boycotting is going to end, the Olympics. It's not about that. It's more so being able to live with yourself knowing what you've participated in.
Totally.
And other people will look at us like we're crazy, probably in times like that. But really, it's called having principles.
Yeah, 100%.
Called having principles.
And that's kind of what led me to leaving my radio gig last year here in Australia.
What was your radio gig?
I was doing breakfast radio up in North Queensland.
Okay.
So, a lot of that stuff where for example, if I was still working on air right now, I couldn't boycott the Olympics and go those couple of weeks not talking about it because that's the thing that everybody's talking about. So I would be expected to come into work every day and we got to talk about this. And did you see what happened with this Aussie athlete or whatever it may be? So since leaving radio, it's kind of been a little bit refreshing for me not having to deal with that stuff. Listen, it's great, but it's a corporate gig at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I got to go into Monica's reply to her emails about the morning tea and, it's just.
Would you have been able to, in that gig or one like it, say how you felt about what happened, for example, in the opening ceremony?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I would have. That's me as a person. I've never shied away from speaking my mind, even on air. Like, I always speak my truth and what I think is right, and I think I've always stayed true to that. Now, they would have called me up on it, and I would have been called into the office and said, "No, we can't do this," and this is your belief. But and that happened several times. But in Lebanon, when I was working on radio. No, it would never have been an issue. I could speak my mind, and
you were on radio in Lebanon as well.
I lived in Lebanon from 2013 to 2019. I did breakfast radio there for Virgin Radio. Yeah.
Oh well, you were there for 6 years.
6 years. That's where I started my radio.
Yeah,
career.
Awesome.
So,
well, you're not gonna have any issues there. But yeah.
Nah, they're awesome, man. Like that was some great years. The only two rules in Lebanon on radio were don't speak about religion. And don't speak about politics.
Yeah.
Anything else, you kind of go for.
Yeah, which is funny because they're such big things, but over there you actually risk getting lynched.
Well, that's what divides people.
Yeah.
It's still crazy over there with politics. I mean,
they
don't have a president, but it's still just living there and seeing how. I think majority of people are over, the way it's been the last 50, some would say 100 years, even longer. But with all the corrupt politicians, but I think people are finally, enough's enough. But, what do you do when mafiosos are in charge?
Yeah.
They're in charge, man. You can't really do much.
Look, my view on Lebanon has always been the change has to come culturally through the people.
100%.
You can't mandate through policy because at the end of the day, it's like politicians bribe people to vote, for example. Who are they bribing?
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's taking a bribe, like, you know what I mean?
Mehdi.
Yeah, someone has to take the bribe.
Yeah.
Someone has to make that vote.
And in a place like Lebanon, it's so much easier for them to find people to take that bribe because
and that's the issue.
Your common man, your common everyday person is struggling.
Yeah.
So,
no, I didn't know you lived in Lebanon.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's where I met my wife in Lebanon. Yeah. And you know what? Maybe not a popular opinion, but the dream is to end up there.
Yeah.
I'd love to live in Lebanon one day.
So you got to hold on to that dual citizenship. If
all
goes to shit here, that's usually the plan for most Lebanese Australians, 100%. Right? Hey, what are we going to do if all goes to shit? Well, we know what we're going to do.
Well, that was always the dream for everyone. Even my parents, I remember growing up, they were always talking about, we're going to go back one day. We're going to go back,
Yeah. I feel like most or a lot of Lebanese families have that period in their life where we were almost going to go back.
Yeah.
We started to pack things and we started to plan.
You guys did?
Yeah, we had that as well.
Nice.
We had that as well. I think it was, wouldn't even remember if it was like the mid-2000s.
Yeah, wow.
Or a bit earlier.
Have you been?
Yeah, I've been a few times. Last time was 2019.
Okay.
Before that was sometime, 8 years before that.
What's your thoughts? Do you love the place?
I love Lebanon. I love Lebanon. I've shared some thoughts on the show before, which, weren't received too well by everyone.
What were those thoughts?
Basically,
briefly.
I love the country.
Yeah.
And I love how deep-rooted we are in our faith. I love the Maronite history. But I personally struggled a lot with the disconnect from the people there.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the upbringings are so different.
They are very different.
You know, like we sort of had this connection to Lebanon. You know, I was born in mid-90s, 95. I went back in 2000 for 2.5 months as a kid. My whole family.
Yeah.
I was back there in 2006, back there in 2010, and then 2019.
Okay.
And so over the time, every time we'd go, it just felt like things were that little bit more different. I felt like we sort of were somewhat consistent in how we're doing things, but things are changing there a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So culturally, I struggled, and I'm not saying that's the case for every person in Lebanon.
You didn't enjoy it?
I did,
okay.
I did, but I struggled a lot more to connect with the wider community. You know, so it just meant it was harder for me to be there for a long period of time.
The Lebanese here are very different from the Lebanese over there.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So I'd be there for say 3 weeks. Now I'm 4. Now I'm like, I'm good. It's time to come home.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
The holiday's over.
It's funny you say that. The first time I ever went to Lebanon was with my family, and I wasn't young. I was maybe 19, 20 years old, and I didn't enjoy it. I went home early. I was supposed to be there for a month. After like 2.5, 3 weeks, I booked my flight early, and because it was a family trip, like, you know, we were going to this uncle's house and this cousin's house, and this.
Yeah.
I didn't really see. Yeah, I went and saw Baalbek and, you know, different parts of Lebanon, but I didn't see what a 20-year-old guy wanted to go see. You know, I wanted to go see the nightlife, and so I returned a few years later with my friends. And I saw a new part of Lebanon. You know, I saw the partying in Lebanon. I saw the beaches and the resorts, and you know, even going up to the different villages with different friends, and I fell in love with the country from wanting to leave early to, oh, I love this place. It's amazing. And I returned and did some stand-up shows the following year, and then the following year after that, I got the radio offer. So I said I would try it for 1 year. And this was the time during the Syria war. So it wasn't really 2013 wasn't the best time to go over. But
when is the best time to go to Lebanon anyway?
Man, I was supposed to be in Lebanon right now.
Yeah.
And I canceled my trip only because I've got a son now. And we were leaving on the week that, you know, Israel did a big attack, and Iran was saying we're going to retaliate, and I'm like, I don't want to be stuck in an airport for 18 hours with my kid, and you know, so I said let's just postpone the trip, and you know, it's funny. As soon as I messaged my friends over there saying, "Oh, I'm not covered," they're like, "They got you, didn't they? They got you. The media got you." And I used to be the guy in Lebanon that would tell all my friends here, "There's nothing. Come here." Yeah. And, you know, 5 years later, I'm on the receiving end. So
yeah, my parents are there now. They've been there for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's just the same thing. There's nothing. It's fine.
Yeah.
Especially in certain areas.
Of course.
You know, so, but it does always feel like there's a reason not to go with Lebanon. You just sort of, but it's different once you have a kid as well. Like, you can tough it out at an airport for a couple of days and sleep on 100%. A bench.
My wife and I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah,
we would have gone.
When you got a young kid, how old's your? Is it your son?
Yeah, my son is nearly 1.5.
Yeah.
So,
that's rough. Travel.
It's tough, man. And you know, it's like my wife and I were tossing up. I'm like, should we just go? Let's just go. And then she said to me, she goes, "Listen, if something happened, which it probably won't, but if something does, it would be quite selfish of us to want to go, you know, spend this. We want to go on this great trip, and you know, a possibility of, you know, having our son uncomfortable or trying to travel somewhere, or because I don't, you know, what they say. Well, what if the airport closes? I don't care. I'll chill up in the village.
Yeah, like, once you're there, it's not the problem. It's just like in that 3-day period of, you know, getting there
and flights were getting cancelled daily, and it just, you know, it just didn't seem like it was the right thing to do. But yeah, these are the things you got to consider when you got a kid. Do you have kids?
No.
Okay. You'll get there one day.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I don't
have different life.
I don't have to factor in as much now, you know, when I do anything really, because it's just me. So
yeah,
it's a different ball game.
That's a blissful time when it's just you, man.
Yeah.
You know, I think back to myself. I'm like, I'm not much of a stressor, but you have no reason to stress when you're single and don't have a family and no responsibilities. It's just like you. It's like, enjoy the carefree time. Yeah, because the time is coming where the cares aren't free.
There's trauma in your eyes, Anthony.
Yeah, no, it's great. You know what? It is the best thing in the world. Getting married, having kids. I encourage everyone to do it. It's not easy, especially having your first kid at 40. That's a whole different ball game. But it's the best.
How did you find? Maybe it's a sensitive topic, but marrying someone from Lebanon, because that's like not every, but a lot of Lebanese Aussies have this fear, right? Which is someone just looks the part for the visa sort of thing, and
well, my wife is not. She wasn't living in Lebanon at the time. She's Lebanese Canadian, so.
Okay, so
so she was born in Lebanon, but her family left there when she was in her teens. So they migrated to Canada, and she was working as a flight attendant with Air Canada at the time. So she was flying back and forth to Lebanon visiting her family, and we met at the front of a Dunkin' Donuts, and we just stayed friends for like a year, but. She was still very much Lebanese. She'd only been living in Canada maybe 12, 13 years. So
yeah, but she wasn't more like a full freshie Leb. Like she tasted the West. It's Canada.
She did. Yeah,
Canada is the only country that's politically more shit than Australia. So
yeah, they are shit.
Yeah, they're horrible.
So shit. That Trudeau, man.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's Castro's son. You know the rumor.
I've heard that rumor. Yeah. Is that being confirmed?
No. They never confirm anything, right?
I love it. Let's just dive into different conspiracy theories on this episode. But yeah, she's awesome, man. I love her to death. So we just kind of.
So you just randomly cross paths at a Dunkin' Donuts in Lebanon?
Yeah, in Lebanon, in Jbel, in Byblos. So
right.
And we just kind of stayed. In contact, we exchanged numbers, and obviously, like I live here, she lives over there. I wasn't thinking to ask this girl out on a date or anything.
Yeah,
but we just stayed friends, and chatting over social media and text, and then maybe 12 months later, she goes, "I'm coming back, visit some family," and I'm like, "Yeah, let's go out for dinner, and let's and that's kind of."
Were you living there at the time?
I was living there. I was working there at the time.
Yeah.
So this is going back 2017, 18 maybe.
Is that why you decided to live there? You were waiting for her? Surely you've told her that's why, even if it's not. It's a great story.
That's why, baby. That's why. It's it's funny. I actually met her just before I decided to resign from my job there. So
right.
it was crazy to think, hey, let's start a relationship. You live in Canada, I live in Lebanon, and I'm moving back to Australia.
Yeah.
But let's start this relationship. But love's a funny thing. As corny as that sounds, I don't like to be a corny guy. But so if it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
And how has she found adjusting to Australia?
Yeah, I mean, she came and visited prior to COVID. She came maybe. Her and I went back and forth between Canada and Australia like 5 or 6 times in 12 months. I went and met her family, and she came and met the family. And then COVID happened, and we didn't see each other for 2 years.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
That's rough.
It was, man. It was dating over FaceTime,
You were doing it like the kids do it.
Let's watch this movie. You ready to press play? Press play now. A lot of that. And it was tough because I think as much as it made me realize how much I need this woman in my life, being apart from her, it just made me despise the government.
Yeah.
And love was growing, but hate was growing at the same time, because we applied for maybe 14 different exemptions. Not one they even explained why she can't come into the country or I can't leave the country. But and then you'd see, this footy player's coming in and out, or this celebrity's coming in to film, and it's just like, none of this makes sense, you know? I mean, it didn't even make sense here. I was in Bondi, they were suntanning on the beach, and I'm out west having the army chopper flying over my head while walking the dog. It was a crazy time. But as soon as the borders opened up, she came over, and she came to Townsville when I was living in Townsville. So Lebanese Canadian woman coming to Townsville. I mean, for me, it was a shock. Yeah. And I'd lived in Australia my whole life. It was a different kind of living. But she adjusted pretty good. And
we were probably two of the top 10 worst countries when it came to COVID and COVID and lockdown. And
she lived in Toronto, so I think they were the most locked down cities. So between them and Melbourne. But yeah, like when she came over, we just did the shotgun wedding. We didn't we just had like 70 people. I'm like a disgrace to the Lebanese community. I think it's like the smallest Lebanese wedding in the history of Lebanese people.
Well, you're lucky because COVID normalized all of that, right? After COVID, it was okay to uninvite people from your wedding. No one questioned it.
So, we just got married straight away and, had a baby not long after that. So we didn't really get to enjoy just us.
Yeah. But you couldn't really risk it anymore, right? It's like you've gone through hell and back.
100%, man.
Just to keep, skipping around for your dinner dates for a couple of years.
Yeah. But I was always a guy that was afraid of commitment and stuff. So I think, it was a blessing in disguise that we were separated for some time, and it made me realize,
It's interesting how we get tested, isn't it? You're afraid of commitment, and it's like, okay, let's see how long you can go and not see her. Then you grow with rage for the government and all they did to you.
Yeah. The rage is still there.
Yeah, it is for me as well. I've had numerous conversations on the show with just how sort of disenfranchised I've become with, just how the government goes about things, how the medical industry goes about things, all of that.
Let's we want to talk about conspiracy theories. I'd love to get your opinion on this, brother. Do you think when people go vote, that actually counts? Or they're just going to put in whoever they want to put in?
In this country?
In any major Western country?
Oh.
Or do you think it's different in...
Look, I would say that I think there are at times foul play. I wouldn't say that I think it's as simple as it doesn't matter what we do, they've got a plan sort of thing. I think Aussies, just generally, the Australian population is very easy to sway.
Yeah.
I just feel we have too many swing voters.
Yeah.
No, and that said, I don't think one party is necessarily always the best option either, because even within the parties,
I think they're the same.
Yeah, even within the parties, they've closed the gap a lot. So
big time.
I'm not sure I would say that the sort of the outcome is decided.
Yeah,
but you do see some things, and in 2020, I had my doubts about, say, the US election, about certain things that happened there, and the problem is there are so many layers between the truth and what we receive. It's like you just don't know where the truth got muddied.
And especially now where we have an influx of information. We've got too much information.
Yeah.
And obviously they're not all reliable sources. It's like, what's real? What's not? Am I believing this because this kind of just goes along with what I want to think or what I want to believe? Or
that's the other factor, right? What you sort of want to be true.
Totally.
But where my general rule is I don't believe it as it's told to me.
Okay.
I don't know what the truth is.
Yeah.
But when they come out and officially say, hey, these are the official facts now, I'm like, yeah, no, something's off.
Yeah, I'm the same.
And it's been proven that way of thinking is probably the better way.
Yeah.
Like one example very easily is COVID. At first they were saying that this thing can be transmitted on packages sent from China. And they had us all masking up. You had idiots driving a car on their own wearing a mask.
Still till this day.
Still till this day.
Yeah.
There's some poor people doing that. So
there is. I feel sorry for those people.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know what the truth is. It's probably somewhere between the two extremes. Where it is, I don't know. But it's definitely become very hard to just take it at face value.
Yeah.
What's been said by the mainstream. Hey, This is the official story.
And you're right. I'm the same where it's like whatever they say, I usually like the other day I was reading this article. My wife sends me this article. It's like dark chocolate can cause cancer. And I'm like, let's stock up on dark chocolate. Yeah. that means it's good for you and they don't want us to have it.
Same with meat, right? Red meat.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's the world is a funny place. We're considering homeschooling. So,
well, look, that's become a lot more realistic
for
a lot more people, especially for Christians.
Yeah.
Whether it's the best thing or not, I don't know. I guess people got to work it out for them, but it's not as crazy as it used to seem. I mean, 15 years ago, someone said they're homeschooling, you think their kids are a bunch of weirdos and
listen,
and there's some sort of societal
big time, like they're trying to,
outcast, or
they belong to a cult.
Yeah, or they live out in the bush 8 hours away, and that's about it.
Or they're Amish.
Yeah, and that was just the perception. But now it's like someone says, "Hey, I think I'm going to homeschool."
Yeah,
like, I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I really can't blame you.
We're
anymore.
considering it. I mean, I just think to myself, like, and even these days, like, they say for a good school, you got to register your kid when they're 3 months old. We just went to the school that was down the road growing up. Like, why is, and even, okay, I want to send my kid to a Catholic school. I got friends that send their kids to Catholic schools that, are still pushing some of these agendas onto the kids, So it's like, what do you do? Do you take the chance and say, because I know the argument that most people say is, oh, don't you want kids to be social? But in fact, when you listen to people that homeschool their kids, or perfect example, my wife, she's a teacher, so she tutors math, and she still tutors a lot of students from back in Canada via online. And one of her students is a homeschool kid, and she said to me, he communicates and speaks like an adult far beyond any of the other teenagers at school. So I don't think that's a real thing that kids, need to go to school to learn social skills. But yeah, it's just a crazy world, man. Like we touched on before, we don't need to be teaching our kids,
This is why I think comedy is so important. Tying it all back in, because comedy is sort of that one area where ideally nothing is off limits. And I used to always sort of question, what is it I really believe about free speech? Because conservatives have this whole spiel about free speech, but I've always been of the view they're only pro-free speech because they're on the back foot. And if they were really sort of in power, they probably wouldn't let certain things be said. There are probably things I wouldn't want to be said.
Good point.
And so it's like, how much do I really care about free speech? And I think their answer is, we need it now more than ever. And so the only fair compromise between both sides is both of us can say what we want to say.
Totally.
And that's where comedy is really important, because there are some comedians, they say some heinous things. They make some heinous jokes. And at times I used to watch and be like, oh, come on, you shouldn't. I think, why am I saying you shouldn't? You can.
Yeah.
I just don't want to listen.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I just don't listen. But that's sort of the price I think we have to pay so that we have the ground to say what we want to say as well.
Saturday night, I was at the club. I was at the comedy club. I was about to go on stage. The MC, she was saying a bit before I came on, and she was saying some ludicrous things, some terrible things, to the point where I was back behind the curtain about to walk on. I said a prayer for her because of how bad the stuff coming out of her mouth was and how disrespectful it was towards God and Jesus. And I'm like, man, and this is a common thing. Like, every time I go to work and it's a lineup show where there's different comics on, guaranteed that one of the comedians, if not several, will be slandering Christians mainly. You never hear them really bash any other religions. And that's how it's always been, though, always been in green rooms, and not by all comedians. I don't want to say all comedians, but
do you think it's the price we have to pay?
What do you mean?
It's the price, like,
in terms of free speech?
Yeah, like we got to let them do that, because if we start fighting to restrict what they can joke about and say, then that's going to come back and bite us and prevent us sharing what we have to offer.
100%. We have to. And like I said, I've got nothing against anyone doing whatever they want to do, that we created with free will to do what we want to do, right? So, I just expect the same in return. So, and with most comedians, the good thing is, like, if you're funny, you're funny. They'll give you that respect. And I've been in the industry for a while, but even still, I've always felt like an outsider for some reason. I've got friends that I've had for, decades in the industry, but I never felt like I belonged to a clique, Yeah. Even until today, I just feel like,
Yeah.
This
MC you mentioned, you said she was making all these jokes.
Yeah.
Did any of them actually land? Like, were people like,
some people
this
were
is
laughing.
hilarious?
So some people weren't, but like a large portion of the comedy club were laughing. They weren't funny jokes. They were lame.
Yeah.
They were lame. Like, listen, if something's an offensive joke, I would respect you enough to say, you set up your punchline, the way you delivered it. Yeah, it worked as a joke, whether I liked it or not, but they were lame, cheap jokes, and they usually are. But it's just not nothing new. I've seen it all the time.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be real with you, Anthony. I don't think there are many times I've watched a comedian that's a chick and I actually thought it was funny. I'm just being honest.
No, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
That's your opinion. We're talking about free speech, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people have that opinion.
I wonder why.
Listen, there's not as many female comedians as male comedians, and I think a lot of them make the mistake of just trying to fall back on the same kind of subjects of women are awesome, men are shit, and we don't need men, and a lot of them
just
do.
Extremely vulgar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in all fairness,
like, we don't need 1,000 jokes about your vagina.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
In all fairness, I used to make vulgar jokes on stage as well.
Yeah.
When I was starting up, and even maybe till 6-7 years ago, maybe a little bit long. I was doing some vulgar jokes. I guess that's part of my immaturity and growing up, and now I don't even drop F-bombs on stage. But I guess I'm at a different stage in life, and I look at things differently. I live my life a different way, and I'm trying to get better every single day. So I want my stage time to reflect that as well.
Yeah.
And I had some people come up to me after a gig not long ago, and they said to me, we love coming to watch you because you don't curse, you don't you don't have gutter talk, and you just observational. We love because and that kind of made me feel good because I thought, what, I'm becoming better as a person.
And you could argue it's much harder to do. It's a lot harder to. I think it's a lot harder to articulate yourself without swearing. Like, the F word is a magnificent word,
man,
because you can use it in a billion different ways.
Yeah,
for a billion different meanings.
Totally,
and all these different emotions. And it actually makes articulation a lot easier because it just fits.
Man,
but then when you have to tell a story or express yourself without it, it's actually a much more difficult task.
I dropped a joke because of it. Because I had a joke where the punchline is, it was a personal trainer joke, and I go up to the guy and I say, "Hey, F off." And it always,
you know what? I listened to that yesterday.
It always got
when he's complaining about you being late. Yeah.
And I tried to do that joke recently. And what was the word I used? I said something like "get lost" or something. It just fell flat.
Yeah, it's not the same.
It's not the same. And I just said, "Well, do I just do the joke and drop the F-bomb? Nah, I just don't do the joke." Maybe an unpopular opinion, but that's just kind of the approach I took.
Well, I guess at the end of the day, you got to choose a style that you're comfortable with, and if that has changed over time, then it's changed. Like me personally, I wouldn't say I have some intrinsic problem with people swearing. I think it's just the context thing for me.
I mean, in everyday life now, and I don't want to come out and say how good I am. I don't know how good I actually am because I'll still curse from time to time. And
do you get road rage?
It depends if my wife's giving me directions. No.
I thought you'd get less of it if she was there, not more of it.
No, she's terrible at giving directions. God bless her. No, I don't really. I used to get road rage. When I used to do dry cleaning delivery in the CBD. Oh man, filthiest mouth you would come across. But now, even in the day to day, like I don't know how much better it is because I might not say the F word, but I'll say F. F that. Is that better if the intent is still there?
I suppose it's a little bit better. You know, but it's a step. My problem is I just resort to swearing in Arabic.
That's a beautiful. That's like poetry.
That's poetic.
It is
poetic profanity. You know,
it is
swearing in Arabic is poetic profanity, and there are certain villages in Lebanon, you know, and which we're not going to name, obviously, Bshadra, and I've heard them swear in ways. It's majestic. It's actually majestic how they can sort of bring in all these vulgar concepts, wrap your family in it, and serve it up real nice.
So true.
And it's just autonomous for
It's so true. Like I remember I used to, for the Lebanese gigs that I did, I used to have a joke saying that, you know, we love to swear as Lebanese because, and it's just like, not because we want to be vulgar, it's just because the passion. Because like when we say eat a piece of knafe, we don't say, that's nice. We'll be like, look, the shotaibe. You know what I mean? It's just like, and if you don't understand Arabic, it's just, you know.
The problem becomes trying to translate what you just said.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
let's not do that.
No, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. But even as a Arabic-speaking Lebanese person, it's every now and then I just stop and I'm like, what did I just say? Or what did that person just say?
Yeah.
And when you translate it, it's disastrous.
It is. It is disastrous.
It loses its poetry.
But that's part of the beauty, I think.
Yeah. No, but that's back to what I was saying about why comedy is so important. It's the only way that we can, it's one of the main ways in entertainment we can sort of keep the lines of communication open.
Totally.
And there's been a lot going on in sort of the global comedy industry right now with sort of cancellations and things going horribly wrong for some people, or people trying to cancel because of certain jokes about X, Y, Z.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the jokes, I'm not a fan of, but it's just like, man, you got to let them do it because they got to keep this door open.
100%.
Because if it closes on the comics, it's closing on everyone.
I think it's the last form of free speech, really. Well, I mean, you know, live comedy, when it's on television or a Netflix special, there's probably, or not probably, there's definitely somebody that looks over it and says, oh, no, we don't want this on our network. Or, but yeah, it is. And it's quite refreshing to, and I was actually on Saturday talking about the sexualization of children in schools. I was doing a bit about wanting to homeschool my kids, and I could see some people in the crowd, like when I was talking about how, you know, I don't want to send my kid to a school because they're trying to sexualize them at such a young age, and people are like nodding their heads and really like supporting that in the comedy club. So, you know, it's and that's another thing that made me not do vulgar material anymore. Obviously, you know, my mind's not at that place in my life, but you know, when you got a microphone, as you know, with a podcast, you got listeners, you have a responsibility when you're talking to all these people. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that's fine. But the way I look at it is, if you got 50 people listening to you, if you got 1,000 people or 5, whatever it is, I don't want to be putting garbage out there in the air to these people. So
yeah,
that's just kind of the way I look at it.
There's a he's passed away now, but there's a well-known atheist, Christopher Hitchens.
Mm-hmm.
You remember Chris Hitchens? Mm-hmm. So he was notoriously witty. Now, this guy has trashed Christianity and everything we believe time and time again in the wittiest ways possible. So we don't exactly see eye to eye in terms of ideology, but I think he's one of the cleverest speakers I've ever heard. Just the way he presents, and the way he speaks, and the way he articulates himself, and sort of that era of atheism, especially, they held to quite a high regard, at least from what I could see, how important it is to have these open lines of communication about anything and everything. And I remember coming across one of his interviews where he's being grilled about an article that he wrote called "Women Aren't Funny."
Okay.
And so he's being grilled, and this woman, is interviewing him and says, "Oh, what about this woman and this woman?" He's like, "Look, I'm sure there are funny women out there, but my whole argument is that women generally aren't funny because they never needed to be.
Yeah.
They don't need to be. Men do not hold to a higher to a higher regard women who are funny compared to those who are not. They look for other qualities in women, and if they're funny, it's just a bonus."
Totally.
And I always made the point, if you say this in front of a group of guys and girls alike, they flip their absolute shit, right?
Yeah.
Because how dare you suggest that we're not funny? Because you didn't see what happened between me and my friend last night. It was so funny. You had to be there.
Yeah.
And really, a lot of that humor is quite lame. They're just laughing at sort of dumb things. And I say to them, and I don't do this anymore because it's slack to the guys. I say, look, even your boyfriends, your husbands, your partners, they don't think you're that funny either. They just sort of have to laugh. You just laugh. Like if there's some girl you like and she makes a joke, you're gonna laugh.
You gotta laugh.
It's not because it's actually funny.
Yeah.
It's because it's just something you have to do to show her, hey, you and I, we can sort of. Don't get me wrong. Look,
how's the female listenership on this show?
Look, not very good. Not very good. Before you're asking me, do you have kids? I'm like, man, there's questions you got to ask before that, man. There's levels. You never know. Look, some women agree. Look, it's not an insult, by the way.
No, it's not.
The whole point is essentially you don't need to be funny.
Yeah.
Guys have to be funny because, with all respect, when you've got a guy who looks like, Dwayne Johnson, all right, and then you've got a guy who's 5'10", not as well built and has a bit of a hunch, what can help him compete is humor. Like humor
you just told my life story, brother. 5'10", just make a 5'11" with a hunch. That's me. Hairy guy, hook, big nose. Like, how do you think my wife's beautiful? You think I got her from my good looks? No.
It evens the playing field.
Listen,
now let me be clear. Even though humor evens the playing field for uglier guys, I'm not saying you're ugly. I think you're a very good-looking guy.
I think you're a good-looking guy. Face, brother. Just come on. We can be honest here. We're talking about free speech and honesty. Be honest, bro.
Yeah, but look, it evens the playing field.
I'm a very average-looking guy, but I'm happy with that. Because my humor gives me that extra couple of points. Yeah. You know what I mean? That I need.
Whereas women don't need that. They don't need the edge.
They don't. We need a bag of tricks to win women.
Yeah.
Okay. They don't. They just need to sit back.
They just need to be. They just need to be present, exist.
You know what I mean? It's actually a compliment that you saying they don't need to be funny.
Thank you. Everyone listen to Anthony. I'm complimenting women.
Well, I didn't say you're complimenting. Well, kind of. Indirect. It's an indirect compliment.
Look, to make up for it, because everyone always responds with, Francis, do you think any sort of female comedians are funny? I'll tell you who I think's funny.
Yeah, tell me.
2 actresses. Have you seen that movie, The Heat, with Sandra Bullock and
Melissa McCarthy?
Melissa McCarthy. Yeah, Melissa McCarthy
she's
is
funny.
hilarious.
Yeah, she is.
And honestly, Sandra Bullock is funny too.
Okay.
Them two in that movie is a great example of female comedy going perfect.
But you're aware that they didn't write the lines that...
That's fine.
Okay.
But I mean, you would know as a comic, it's not enough to just... You could give your jokes.
Totally, yeah. It's the performance as well.
It's how you perform. It's how you deliver. It's just your... There's almost an aura to it, like Melissa McCarthy. She's freaking
very
hilarious.
Funny. Yeah, she is.
But then you get like your Amy Schumers, and it's like...
No, she's not funny.
I
think that Amy Schumer and some of her, some comics that are kind of like her, people just don't get it. Like, how are they successful in comedy when
industry plans, man? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Look, talent is God-given, but fame is man-given.
Totally, yes.
That's the difference. There are some very talented singers, probably hilarious people out there, whatever it may be, who just don't quite get there. And it's because people decide whether you get there or not.
Big time.
But someone like, was it Ludacris or Usher, whoever discovers Justin Bieber, and him and his production, producers say, look, this is our guy. Now you've got a 14-year-old superstar.
That's the guy.
Did he have the best 14-year-old voice on earth? Probably not, but that doesn't matter.
He ticked the boxes for him.
He ticked the box. So I think just fame is not given, obviously, by God. It's man decides who is going to be famous.
Yeah.
And sometimes the choice is horrible.
And I think, I know I'm friends with a few very famous people, and I mean, there's positives to it, and there's a lot of negatives.
Yeah.
I think when I was young, I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be a movie star. I just love when people come up to me and say, hey, you that comedian guy. I don't want to be famous anymore. It's not a goal of mine at all. I just want to tell some jokes, provide for my family, come onto a podcast, chat to Francis, and just have a good time. I want to end up, the dream is to end up on a farm somewhere away from everybody, where I don't have to speak to anybody. But I'm a little bit, that dream's still
work in progress.
It is, but I mean, I've killed every house plant I've owned, so I don't know about living on a farm. I think it's gonna take some time. I think you're just
attracted to the seclusion, not necessarily.
I think so, but I love it. I love when I go to the farm with my brothers and friends, and I love sitting around the barbecue and having a drink. I don't know if I had to herd up some cows, and I don't know how much I'd love that, but the dream is there for sure.
Yeah. Just need yourself a ride on mower, minimal plantation.
Are you a farm guy? Or?
Look, I didn't grow up on a farm, but I think that's in the dream somewhere. Yeah. Just big land.
What is it?
With some distance.
What's the fascination? What attracts us to this life of being detached from society? Is our society that bad? Is it going to shit that much that we just want to be in a place where nobody is?
Look, I think for me, it's just the distance. I mean, all the seclusion. The world can be pretty fast paced, and there's a lot of noise. And I think we saw in COVID, like when a lot of that noise was stripped back, there isn't a lot left for a lot of people. People going crazy being on their own.
Yeah.
So for me, I think I was mostly okay with the isolation. That said, I had a lot of family staying with us, so it was a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But I think when you're on a big piece of land, you almost create your own reality.
Totally. That's beautiful, isn't it?
It's beautiful, but you also got to be careful because you don't want to be too far removed from what is actually.
Yeah. Well,
reality. And you got to think about how these lifestyles and decisions affect future generations.
Yeah.
Your kids and your kids' kids.
And that's what I say. I say, okay, it's great to run away and be alone, but do we have a moral obligation that if we think a certain way or we do a certain type of work that may benefit society in some way, is it an obligation to stick around and not follow the dream of living alone? And should we be making our kids, God-fearing, respectful people that need to be in society to, keep that balance to make things better? Is that an obligation?
I would think the answer lies in the cost that it incurs on your family. So if fighting the good fight in society means I risk the moral progression and the souls of my kids potentially, then sack that.
Yeah. Because I used to think that. And people say that, you should raise your kids to be the light in the world and, to be better. But I think to myself, like, will anything change in the world if that happens? The world's going in a certain direction very fast.
Yeah.
I don't know if, Anthony Salame's son's going to, God bless him. He's going to be a special guy, I'm sure. But, yeah, I don't know.
Look, we talk about I suppose raising our kids. I say our, like I have kids, you know, I mean, I might. I don't know. I'm joking. Hypothetical, right?
Yeah.
We talk about raising our kids and, do we just make them God-fearing, soul intact, moral beings to live their own life, or do we, sort of prepare them so that they can be a part of society and contribute?
Yeah.
I would also argue, regardless of how much effect they're going to have on society, them being a part of it actually contributes to their growth as well.
Totally.
I think everyone needs something to fight for.
Mm.
I mean, for you, that would be your family now. Like, you need something to fight for, but one day your son will need something to fight for as well.
Yeah.
So a part of me thinks that it's part of the journey to being that God-fearing, moral being, is that you have to involve yourself in some capacity that doesn't compromise your own moral or spiritual growth.
Yeah.
You have to involve yourself because that will contribute to that very growth,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I suspect. We'll see what happens.
And do you feel like, with this podcast that's an obligation that you have? Like, I mean, when you have these conversations, obviously, you think certain ways about certain subjects and you believe certain things.
Mm.
Do you think it's important for you to bring these up, or that's just naturally going to come up because that's what?
Look, I think it naturally just comes up. So in any sort of long form media setting,
yeah,
I don't come with an agenda. Like, my iPad has nothing on it. Like, I just leave it with me in case I need to quickly search something.
Yeah.
I think I just Googled your name before just to get a quick scan of what's there. But, and there's plenty there. But in a long form setting, naturally, whatever you care about, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're passionate about, it will come out.
Totally.
And also depending on the guest.
Mm.
So for me, it was like worst case scenario, not one person ever watches this show, but I get to just talk to different people with different stories or expertise in certain things and learn from them. That's the worst case.
Yeah.
Yeah. The best case is maybe people come in on the conversation, and right now someone's listening while they're driving to work or driving between clients, or on the train, and they're just part of this conversation with Francis and Anthony, and they think, you know what? There were some interesting perspectives which might help me form my own.
Yeah.
It's just making more information available to people to better form how they think,
Have you always been someone that loved having conversations with people?
Yeah, always, yeah. Even when I was involved at uni, sort of in Catholic society, a lot of standing on campus, talking to people about the faith, and I've always just enjoyed it, So when I started the show, though, that's why I don't really label myself as a Catholic podcast, because I want to leave it open to whatever I care about. And it might not always be something so explicitly religious or Catholic. And that's why I called it the Francis Tamer Show, right? Because it's just whatever Francis Tamer feels like showing, talking about.
Yeah.
Talking about. It didn't help that I had Father Ben on. I'm trying to be like, what, don't be too Catholic. And then Father Ben comes on. We open a bottle of scotch, which I forgot to bring. I apologize.
That's all right, man. I'm happy with water. That's fine.
And then he comes on and, does what he does best.
He's great, Father Ben.
Yeah.
Man, I love listening to him talk. He's good man.
Yeah.
Good man, Father Ben.
You also want to, I think regardless of how something like this goes, the emotion I hate the worst is probably regret. The feeling of regret is far worse than anything for me.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is get to 40 or 50 and think, man, I always wanted to do something in media and I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Or I always wanted to start a business and I didn't do it. So,
hey, listen, man, don't drop the number 40 like your life's nearly over, bro. Trust me. You still got plenty more at 40.
As soon as I said 40, I'm like, now I'm going to say 40 or 50, I'll add. Yeah, but you see, you did the things, right? When you were quite young, you were like, this is what I want to try this. I want to try theater. I want to try comedy.
It's funny you say that.
Most people don't do that, Anthony. Most people just toe the line, go do their trade, go to uni. I went to uni for 6 years and I never graduated. I dropped out twice. I dropped out twice because it took me that long to sort of stand my ground and say, this isn't something I want to do.
Yeah. So did you graduate?
No, I didn't.
Oh, wow. You spent 6 years there.
Yeah. Racked up a debt.
Yeah.
Spent all the time.
Man.
Yeah. I was on Against the Grain podcast with Father Ben, and, I had Sarah making dropout jokes.
Yeah, wow.
Can you believe that the disrespect
on against the grain?
On against the grain.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hope she went to confession with Father Bet after
I hope
that.
so. And I'm the one embodying the name of their show because I left,
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
But a lot of people don't. A lot of people will sort of, I want to try this and not do it. It's just like, if you want to try something, just do it. Oh, you want to do Muay Thai? Go do Muay Thai. You want to start a YouTube channel where you make 2-minute clips about, how to, best do your makeup, then go off and do it.
Yeah. University was never appealing to me. I never thought, I couldn't wait to finish high school just so I didn't have to go into a classroom anymore. I remember I used to go, when all my friends, my close group of friends went to university. I remember I had a mate at UWS and I used to go visit him all the time, play table tennis with him in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
And I bumped into one of his friends like 3-4 years later that he used to go to uni with. He's like, are you still going to UWS? I'm like, I never went there. I just used to hang out, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. University, it seemed like a cool place to be.
Yeah.
But it was just,
look, it's cool to be there for a little bit, I guess. But when you just start thinking, man, I could be out working, I could be out doing this.
Well, yeah, my brothers both got married very young, had families very young. I'd look at them and think, did I take the wrong path? Should I be starting a family and, building my first house in my 20s? But we all have different paths. We all have different journeys. And they told me later in life, they'd look at me and be like, man, you're traveling around the world for 6 months a year telling jokes. Like, we look at you and think to ourselves,
yeah,
man, did we jump the gun too early?
Greener,
of course.
The grass is always greener.
Yeah. So,
but that's why the regret element's important, because each person, I think, should just work out, hey, what am I really going to regret if I don't do? Am I really is my thing, I'm going to regret working a 9 to 5 when I'm 35? If so, then I should probably start this business at 27. And even if it stuffs up and all goes to shit, at 30, I can go back to that 9 to 5 and at least I can say I tried, sort of thing,
Yeah.
It can be anything, whether it's work, whether it's, something like this. This isn't paying bills anytime soon.
Yeah.
But
it's great.
I can't expect it ever to. Like a podcast, if Joe Rogan took 5 years to break even and he had an existing profile and following,
The podcast game is tough. I had a podcast when I left radio in 2019 when I left my show in Lebanon. And for about a year, but the consistency, the work, one-man show, producing it, editing it.
Yeah.
When you got a bit of a team behind you, I guess it would be easier, but it's not easy. I know a lot of people would listen to podcasts and think, this dude's just talking in some little room. It's simple. Anyone can do this, but it's actually a lot of work involved.
And it's hard now because so many people do it. There's a lot more scrutiny on people who do it, like the expected standard.
Yeah. You got a podcast. Yeah, everyone's got a podcast.
You put out reels, and I watch reels. I'm like, what is this guy saying? You go through the comments. It's like, anyone can grab a mic now and try and be profound on air. And
well, I mean, I'm trying to blend in with the new age. I'm not a social media guy. But now I'm trying to upload reels as well, because that's what you got to do apparently if you want to stay relevant. And
it's very hard. It was very hard for me when I started this to be a bit more attentive to social media. I don't upload anything. I'm not one of the people that sort of takes a photo of a selfie before they have their ice cream and look at my steak tonight. And I've even at times had a bit of an issue with people uploading food that they eat.
Okay.
I'm a bit torn about it. I wouldn't say I've landed somewhere, but it's like, man, when people upload sort of the expensive meals they have, it's on one hand, I just think, man, there are people out there who are barely eating, and it's just like, hey, look what I'm eating. But then you could say that about anything that someone posts online.
Totally.
So it's hard.
Why are you uploading a new car? You know what I mean? There's people out there that are walking.
Exactly. And it's like,
there's people out there that got to catch the bus, man.
Yeah. And then maybe someone uploads a video of them walking. It's like, man, some people can't walk. So, where
do we draw the line?
You can't really draw the line. Exactly. That's why I'm a bit torn. But
that's social media. It's a bizarre thing that I don't think our minds can ever really grasp our minds were not built to take on so much information.
Too much stimuli.
And I think these days with, what's happening in Palestine and Russia, Ukraine, like everybody wants to feel guilty for everybody. And it's not healthy for anyone. And I just think it's, of course, you got to have empathy and we pray for those people, and it's terrible. But I don't think God made us to
deal with issues.
The burden of the whole world. We just got to worry about what's happening in front of us. And that's part of the reason why I took a hiatus off social media. And I couldn't watch this every day, and it's like, I won't follow this page, but this person's reposting this and this. You can't escape it.
Can't escape it, yeah. I saw some reels, some guy would upload a video talking about some random issue. It might be like a local issue with, let's just say it's like water quality. And then there'll be some guy will comment and be like, you're so concerned about water quality, but you've said nothing about what's happening in Palestine. It's like, dude, man, like, we can't address every single issue going on in the world.
Yeah, I know.
It's like, it's almost like the groupthink assigns the priority of what has to be most important.
Well, you saw it like with Black Lives Matter, you know, if you didn't post that on your profile or whatever, you hate black people. It's insane. Like there's no more rational thinking anymore. It's just extremities. It's this extreme or that extreme. Nobody can just be civilized. You know what I just realized? Are we just two guys complaining about everything? Is this what this podcast episode is about?
That's usually what I do. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that now.
Look, Anthony, every time I open my mouth, someone will say, Francis, what are you complaining about now? And it's like, look, there's a lot to complain about.
There is.
And look, the comments are going to say the same thing. Oh, these two guys, switch on a camera and think they're saying something important. And that's just...
No, I would never, ever claim to be saying anything important.
Neither would I. But that's what we sign up to as soon as we put ourselves online. That's why the internet's rough, man.
Yeah, it is.
And it's weird because while the internet is so rough, the internet is so damn entertaining. Some of the funniest...
What do you like to kill your brain cells with? Like, what do you just love to kind of watch to disconnect and...
Look, honestly, I watch a lot of podcasts, like video podcasts and stuff. I spend a lot of time on YouTube because I work, in the IT space. I've always got like something running, whether it's music or just videos playing or certain things I listen to. I'm not much of a sort of incessant scroller and stuff like that, but every now and then you get caught in it.
You do get caught.
Yeah, you get a bit caught, but it's mainly sort of podcasts and
having
videos.
A child has helped me with that though, because I'm trying to be present and not on my phone. And even as somebody that does, like me, that doesn't even like social media, I find myself it's bizarre scrolling, and it's good. I got my son there. I don't have a TV in my house because I got a kid.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
That's
mean,
great.
Is that a little bit extreme? Maybe.
No, there's a few people who have sort of adopted that mindset. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when I moved from Townsville, the removalists cracked the screen, and I just decided not to get one anymore. I thought, you know what? Let's give this a run with the kid. Like, we don't want him to be on screens. We're not giving him iPads or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
How long has it been without a TV?
In October, it'll be a year.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I've still got the phone and laptop, right? So I still find myself jumping on YouTube at night.
But do you ever just want to sort of wind down and chuck on a movie? Like, is that...
Name me the last good movie you watched.
Last good movie that I watched? Oh.
I can't remember. I can't remember the last movie that came out that I said, man, I enjoyed that movie.
You know what? I think I'm going to say Top Gun, the new Top Gun.
That was all right. Yeah. That's probably the same one.
That's also quite a while ago.
Yeah. I don't know why I've been watching a lot of food eating competitions lately.
Oh, yeah.
Do you ever watch these guys, these competition eaters?
I don't watch them, man. I eat. That's what I do.
Yeah. I just...
I do the eating.
And I have that guilt when I watch it. I'm like, there's people that are starving in the world, but I don't know.
Well, they're not wasting food, right?
So, they don't waste nothing. There's something fascinating about that.
You know what you need to get onto? You need to get onto Kitchen Nightmares.
Bro, I've watched them all.
Okay.
It's my favorite show of all time.
Yeah, you know what?
It's my favorite show of all time.
Yeah.
Like, there is not Gordon Ramsay in Kitchen Nightmares is the most entertaining person on television, hands down.
100%. Yeah.
That's a brilliant show.
Are you thinking Hell's Kitchen or Kitchen Nightmares?
Kitchen Nightmares.
Yeah, okay, good.
The one where he goes to the restaurants and what is this shit, you know?
Yeah. That's good TV. Now it's just different, man. Different with all the streaming platforms.
Yeah. Even Gordon Ramsay's shows are watered down now. You can't talk to people the way that people would go have anxiety attack and break down and, you know, sue the show.
Oh, man. So yesterday I'm at my brother's house. You know, I don't know what show I'm watching. Prison Break. I think I'm watching some episodes from at the moment.
Is that still on?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I'll just watch
it was
stuff.
one of those shows that would be believable to me in its 26th season or something. You know?
Yeah. And my brother says, "Oh, Francis, do you mind? I'm going to watch The Block now." I'm like, yeah, that's fine. And so he puts on The Block, and the first 20 minutes of this episode is about how one of the couples, this guy and this girl, you can't see them, but you can hear them arguing. And it's just this incessant arguing. And, you know, he's trying to talk to her, and she says, "Look, I'm not going to speak to you while you're speaking to me like that. This is not a conversation. I'm going to leave you alone now. This is not how we talk." And then it'll cut, and now she's screaming at him and swearing at him. And it just went back and forth, right? And I just looked at George and I'm like, who is this narcissistic? He's like, "Oh, don't get me started." Anyway, it goes for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And then they come out and they decide, hey, we have to leave the show. And so they address the other contestants for too damn long about how, you know, we've spoken and the best thing for us to do to look after ourselves and our health. And they just kept repeating, we have to look after ourselves and seek help and talk to the right people. And, you know, the guy is like, yeah, she's decided the best thing for her is to go and get help. And she's like, what happened? Like, you guys just buckled under the pressure. Just say we're done with it and leave. Like, we don't need this whole spiel.
Soft society,
yeah,
bro.
Yeah. And then after they left, the host, I forget what his name is, he addresses the other contestants. He's like, look, you know, we've spoken to them, and, you know, Channel 9's going to make sure that they're supported through all of this. And they're just ticking all these boxes about how we're supporting everyone with their mental health. Yeah. And mind you, the issue isn't helping people that need help with their mental health. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
Because we should.
Totally.
But these people, you had some guy who just wants to win at any cost and some narcissistic fiance, and they decided this is too much because they want to kill each other over this show. Just leave.
Yeah. Just leave.
It's just a 60-second part of the show. It was like the first 20 minutes.
So sorry, guys. We're gonna bounce.
We're gonna bounce. We're done here. And it was just, you know, as they're walking out, you know, she's hugging one of her friends from the show.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wish I could have seen the signs. It just makes me question, was I ever really your friend if I couldn't even see that you needed help? It's like, what was wrong with her?
Everyone is a victim. And like you said, people with real issues, yes, we need to help them and we need to do everything for them. But everybody wants to be a victim. And it's soft society. It's it's these participation awards that kids are getting from a young age that are leading to make soft people like this.
Yeah.
I was out at a gig the other week, and there was a guy carrying like this big wooden wheel. It was like in the city, it was part of like Sydney Fringe, and a piece of the big wooden wheel came off and it landed in front of me. And it was like a heavy piece of wood. And a female worker came up to me. She goes, "Are you all right?" And it was like about a meter in front of me. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine." She's like, No. "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm sitting here. I'm just texting my wife on my phone. I didn't flinch. Like, I'm fine." She goes, No. "I know you're physically all right, but there's, you know, sometimes you don't feel." I'm like, do you know where I grew up? I was doing concreting in the 4th grade to help my dad on the weekend. Like, people are just so soft.
Yeah.
And I know she's probably being very nice and very compassionate, but this is the result of a soft society. I mean, it's
Have you seen that Bill Burr bit? He was on some nighttime television show, and he's doing a bit about how, you know, when he was a kid and he was, you know, he refused to eat, and, you know, he yelled at his mum. So his dad, who's eating, just grabs a glass of milk, throws it at his face and just keeps eating like nothing happened. And his mum just started wiping it up. And then he says, if that happened now, he would have to, the dad would have had to yell at him, turn to the wife, tell her she's so brave, and then turn back. Man, I wish I got to get a screen installed here so I could show this stuff.
That's funny. I like Bill Burr.
Bill Burr's great. Bill Burr's probably the one comedian I'm looking forward to seeing when they come, here.
Yeah. I did a gig with him in 2010.
Oh, that's awesome.
When I was like starting up, I got to go to Montreal Comedy Festival.
Mm.
And I did a show. It was Bill Burr, Jimmy Carr.
Oh, wow.
Myself. There was like a New
Jimmy
York.
Carr can be pretty edgy, man.
And this was like a little club in Montreal, probably 100 people. But that was the beauty about a festival like Montreal Comedy Festival, where you'd have 70 of these comedians from around the world. It was an invite only. I don't even know how I got into this. Like, looking back at the material I was doing then, I'm like, man, that was terrible.
Mm.
I couldn't believe I was on a show with these guys. But yeah, like, Bill Burr's always been one of my comedy heroes. And when you can, just being on the same lineup, it was like,
Did you get a chance to meet him?
No, I didn't get a chance to chat to him. But I spoke to Jimmy Carr the next day.
Oh, yeah.
We crossed paths in the hotel, and he was a friendly enough guy. But yeah, it's comedy's taken me some places. I'm very grateful. I'm very blessed.
He's a wise guy, Jimmy Carr. He's been on a lot of sort of podcasts and shows, and just like not even talking comedy, just life in general. Yeah. He's pretty switched on.
He is.
I just want to know if Bill Burr is as angry just in every day. Yeah. I just imagine him as this guy who's just angry all the time. Because he's got the best angry humor.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
You heard his military joke? Again, he was on some late night, I don't know, Conan or something. And he's like, I was doing a show. He goes, I had a military joke. And so to check if it's actually good, he did it at some club with like war veterans or, ex-army or something like that. And he goes, they loved it. So then he did it at a normal show.
Yeah.
And some guy stands up and starts, heckling him and whatnot. And so like, what was your joke? He said, look, the joke was just, I get it. If some guy is like, a pilot in a fighter jet, got shot down, had to eject, he's a hero.
Yeah.
But the guy who's like on the ship.
He makes a good point.
Just like pointing where the war is, like go that way.
Yeah.
Apparently they're heroes as well.
Or the chefs. Do you have to salute the chefs? Or?
Yeah, everyone apparently. So no, Bill Burr's always been legendary.
What do you think of they're talking about making it compulsory for certain people to maybe sign up in the military in the near future? You hearing about this?
No.
Yeah.
Here?
I think they were talking about it in the States, but they were maybe floating the idea in Australia as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will have it happen, but
a part of me thinks it wouldn't probably be such a bad thing for a lot of people to do a few months or a couple of years of some hard training.
Yeah.
But it's all, I guess, dependent on exactly what the military is going to look like at that point in time.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a walk in the park. So
I just feel like, we, as a country, I can't believe we haven't been invaded yet. like seriously, like some of the stuff, dude, nobody's threatened by Australia, right?
I don't think so.
Like, nobody's ever said, we better not mess with Australia.
No.
No,
I don't think anyone's
There's nothing we're doing as a society that's intimidating to other nations.
No. We're
a pushover.
Yeah.
We're that guy in the schoolyard that like the bully would steal the lunch from all the time with no resistance or no fighting back.
Pretty much, yeah. I think we just depend on some of the bigger countries.
Yeah.
That we claim we have strong alliances with.
That's what it is.
Yeah. It's like that guy, that guy that rolls around thinks he's a hotshot because of who he rolls with.
Yeah. That is Australia.
That's Australia.
That's Albanese, big time.
Yeah. Our politicians as well, like we'll talk about
the biggest nerds,
how they're going to,
they're the biggest nerds.
They talk about how they're going to staunch other leaders and, Like, we'll show them.
Yeah.
Wait till we cross in the hallway. It's like, man, I don't think you're going to do much, man.
Kevin Rudd or Albanese or ScoMo walking past Putin. You think he's going to be like, oh, better not get on the wrong side of this guy.
Yeah, it reminds me when Biden was telling a story how when he interacted with Putin, how he looked him in the eye and he's telling some staunch story.
Yeah.
It's like, man, get back to the nursing home, man.
Do you think that all these can we jump back into conspiracies? Do you think that these world leaders, political leaders, like behind closed doors, are just all in bed with each other, and we're just the suckers?
I don't know about all of them. Like, honestly, I wouldn't put too much weighting on the, say, Australian leaders.
Okay.
Like, I don't think
they're not invited to the party.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I think when you talk about countries like China and Russia, and the US, like, there's some big countries, man.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
There's layers there. So,
do you think US and China are really beefing, or behind closed doors, it's?
I think there is beef.
Yeah,
I think there is beef. The way I see the beef is you've sort of got these leaders of these countries, and there's the behind the scenes organizations, whatever they may be, organization that runs it, but they're at odds with each other at times. I don't think they can all have the exact same agenda. I think there might be overlap.
Yeah.
I think there might be overlap, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure they're all completely. Well, you think they're all like?
No, I don't think they're all
in bed.
Nah, I think a lot of them are though. I think a lot of them are.
Yeah.
But then again, you think to yourself, well, all right, this guy says I'm going to bomb this country. I don't do that. It doesn't mean they're in bed together. Obviously, there's repercussions to a military attack on a country, for example. But I feel like a lot of these big nations, they're
there's definitely more than meets the eye.
Yeah,
that's what I would say. Yeah,
like you said, when they tell you this is how something works, I usually believe the opposite. So and I think that's just I think the media's just fried my brain too much over the years. So.
Well, the last 8, I mean, since Donald Trump was elected the first time.
What do you think about Trump?
What do I think about him?
What's your thoughts? Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. Look, overall, I would definitely, I think, prefer him.
Yeah.
I think even though I'm an Aussie, so it's not like it impacts me directly that much, but I've become very anti-democrat. I just think the Democrats have completely lost their way.
Yeah.
But for quite some time now.
Of course.
I wouldn't say I align with Trump 100% on, say, values and whatnot. I'm far more pro-life than he is, among other things. But I do think he's definitely the better of the two options.
This is what I was talking about earlier in
and
terms
he's more
of
entertaining,
elections.
let's be honest.
Yeah, he's funny, man.
That 4 years was like,
it's brilliant.
when I turned on the news in the morning,
yeah,
it's like, you don't know what Trump's done now. And it's hilarious because
it is hilarious.
He just didn't care.
Yeah.
He didn't toe the line to, all the sort of norms when it comes to dealing with the media and, don't do this and you should do that.
But do you think with a country like America and how it runs, as they call him the leader of the free world, do you think that when it comes to the elections that the powers that be, without trying to sound too tinfoil hat, would allow someone that anti-establishment, that anti-whatever they're pushing, would they allow him to go in and just free reign, do whatever he wants, as he did, without,
there are some things he didn't do.
Light?
Yeah, there are some things he didn't do that he said he would, right? And so it makes me think that maybe he's not a completely loose cannon.
Yeah.
Maybe they do have the reins to some extent. Maybe that extent is just less than the walking Roomba that is, Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
Like he said he'd release the JFK files and he didn't.
And now he's saying he's going to do that again.
Yeah. And he said he would prosecute Hillary Clinton. He didn't.
Yeah.
And she should have been prosecuted. Like, you could do 10 episodes about what that woman's done.
Oh, how good was that in the debates?
Yeah, when he said she'd be in jail.
She'd be in jail.
Yeah, exactly. But he said that he'll be prosecuting her, and
but that's what I mean.
But he didn't.
No.
Right? So it does make me think that he's not, I'll do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
There are obviously limitations on what this guy's willing to do.
Yeah. And I don't want to say, this guy, it's all for the show. But maybe he does have good morals and maybe he does, believe in some of these things that he says. But for example, on his social media I think it was on Sunday, it was Our Lady's birthday.
Yeah, the Happy Birthday Mary
post.
And
he posted Our Lady of Guadalupe and just said, Happy Birthday Mary. Like, is he doing that? Is that a political move?
Yeah.
To get the Christians on his side or the Catholics on his side to vote? Because I'll tell you what, I bet you tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, would have seen that and been like, this is our guy.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously most politicians do what they need to do to cater to the voters.
Yeah.
But if that means that we end up with good policy, then so be it. So like before he was elected in 2016, he released a list of 25 judges. He said, if I ever have to replace anyone on the Supreme Court, it will be someone from this list. Guaranteed. And all of them were solid, conservative, pro-life judges. And he ended up replacing, I think, two justices, Supreme Court justices. Roe v. Wade was overturned a couple of years ago now.
Yeah.
So, now whether he produced that list because, I want all Christians to vote for me, but I don't actually care, it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That camera just turned off, so let me just excuse the technical difficulties once again. I think we've got those back on. You were talking about Trump.
Yeah.
And whether he actually believes what he says he believes. The other benefit is, regardless of if he believes it, I think eventually he starts to.
Okay.
I think, look, I'm not sure just how Christian he is or whether he even is at all, to be honest. I don't know. But I'd like to think that the more he goes down this road, the more he finds solace and peace in it.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
That's my hope.
No, that's a better way. That's a healthier way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Rather than someone like me saying, screw all these guys and they're all in it together. And
yeah, well, I mean, for me, I remember the 2016 election, I had a debate with someone. And there was that leaked audio of his locker room talk, grab her by the this.
Yeah.
And she was saying, it's a horrible thing and no one should vote for him. I was like, but the alternative is Hillary Clinton, man. She's like, yeah, I would vote for Hillary Clinton. I was like, Hillary Clinton supports partial birth abortion. She said, yeah, but, look what Donald Trump, he's a disgusting person. I said, honestly, you're probably right. But just based off that list of 25 justices, knowing he will probably have to replace one, if not more, we have every reason to still vote for him.
Yeah, totally.
Just on a policy sort of level.
Yeah.
That said, he didn't drain the swamp like he said he would, at least not entirely.
Of course.
He didn't deliver on anything.
He talks the talk. He's great at talking.
But he also did do something.
He did.
And he did fight for some things he said he was going to do, like the wall and whatnot. And
totally.
So it's not a complete write-off.
And he's funny.
He's
very
hilarious.
funny. He's a man.
The guy was tweeting at Kim Jong-un, that his button is bigger. And next thing you know, he's meeting up with him,
That's what
makes you think.
And that's what I kind of think to myself, how were you saying when I get to North Korea, I'm going to make him do this? And then he goes there and didn't that Kim Jong-un slice his stepbrother's neck because he spoke about the family? That's just what makes me question how legit all these relationships. I don't know. Donald Trump was friends with the Clintons and they were all kind of partying
he used to be a
together.
Democratic donor.
He was a Democrat, and he was a Democratic voter as well. So that's just what makes me question all this. And it kind of, to be honest, I don't vote anymore.
Oh, you don't?
Nah.
Isn't it compulsory? You just copped the fine?
When I moved overseas, I took myself off the registry and I just never put myself back on.
Oh, well.
Yeah. They said I have to.
Yeah.
But they said I have to do a lot of things that I didn't do. So,
so you're a really disenfranchised voter. You're just like, nah, sack these guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, there's no difference between the two parties. Do I have a say? I mean, if I vote for this guy and he wins, do I have a say in what? No, I just got to vote for him, hoping that his policies and his ideas or his party's ideas are gonna, support what I believe. I don't like anything that politicians do. I don't like their agendas. Like, these politicians go and show up to mass just so, like, for example, the St. Charbel's, the Prime Minister will go every Good Friday.
Yeah.
Why? Because he loves St. Charbel's church and he loves the mass at the no. It's because he knows the Lebs are going to be like, see, Albanese, he loves the Lebanese, and let's vote for him. It's just all I'm not a political guy. I very rarely have these conversations about politics. It's because I wouldn't trust a politician with, as far as I could throw him, I wouldn't trust him. So
yeah. Are you traditionally more sort of conservative?
Of course.
Always? Have you always been?
Of course. Well, in my 20s when I was really getting into the comedy scene and I was kind of blasé about certain subjects, or maybe I didn't know that I had an opinion. Maybe I didn't have an opinion on something like abortion, where no one had ever challenged me or asked me, what do you think about abortion? Have you ever thought about what it actually is? I never, God bless my parents. They did a great job of taking us to church, but we were never really, these conversations were never really had. No one never had with us at school or, and I think that's the problem. Our Catholic schools teaching students about, what it means to be pro-life, what abortion actually is. Are they teaching this stuff? Or are kids going through school and going through their life just being like,
TikTok educated?
Yeah, like, I know that person did it and they were in a bad situation. So it's just, yeah. I think I've always been conservative, but yeah, there was a maybe a good decade, maybe longer, where I was quite casual with
indifferent.
Yeah, because I just cared about,
which is most of the Australian population, really.
When it comes to politics, a lot of the world population, really.
Well, it's a lot less in, say, the United States. A lot more polarized.
Yeah.
People wear their heart on their sleeve a lot more when it comes to this stuff. And how informed they are is a different question. But at least, then this has sort of always been my debate with people that say, oh, America's a shithole and look how it is there. And I'm like, man, they're polarized because people actually care about something. Whether you're Democrat, Republican, faithful, faithless, whatever it is, like they at least care. Here it's just like, who's going to line the pockets better?
That's right.
Oh, what? You're going to stop Centrelink payments? Like,
who's going to give me a tax cut? I'll vote for you. Who's going to give me the $500 check to go spend on my new TV? Let's vote for that guy.
The stimulus checks. Oh, bloody good old K. Rudd.
Kevin,
but at least they care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas, and America is, sorry to cut you off, America's a kind of place. Have you spent some time in the States?
I've never gone.
Okay.
I can't wait.
So it's really interesting because different states are like different countries. You go to somewhere like Houston, Texas, and then you go to San Francisco. It's like you're in two different countries. People talk different. The cuisine's different. The hospitality's different. The people that you see on the street are different.
Yeah,
it's not like going to Sydney and Melbourne, or you're going to see the same kind of faces. In America, the culture really varies from state to state. And I think here in Australia, or, the world only sees mainly what happens in those places like California or New York, where it's very liberal and very progressive and Democrat. And that's what they kind of believe America to be. But in fact, there is a huge conservative population, and Christian population there.
Yeah, I can't wait to go. I'd love to go. I want to go see some NBA.
Oh, how have we not spoken about basketball yet?
Oh, you're an NBA fan?
I'm a diehard Bulls fan from
Bulls
the 90s.
From the 90s
That's
era.
it, man. Like
was it Jordan that got you sort of into the sport?
Jordan that got me into basketball, and I just, I haven't stopped supporting the Bulls, but
they've had a tough run since then.
It's tough to support the Bulls, man.
Yeah.
Who do you follow?
Look, I'm a Steph Curry fan.
Okay.
So I found myself sort of rooting for the Warriors.
Okay. Were you in the bandwagon?
But you know what? I actually came after it.
Okay.
I came after. So after he was injured and off for like a whole season, and KD had left, that's when I sort of just started to tune in.
Okay.
And then when he won his 4th ring, that was sort of when I had just started.
All right.
Yeah. So I came after in my defense. Yeah.
I like Steph Curry. He's good. What's your thoughts on LeBron James?
I mean, phenomenal. He's a freak athlete.
Yeah. But is there a but coming?
He's a bit woke for my liking.
Yeah.
He's got sellout vibes, Like
vibes.
I was in Shanghai for one night on my way to Japan, and like this huge billboard, biggest billboard I've ever seen in my life, with just LeBron James' head on it, and Louis Vuitton or something. Like, man, this guy's just got big sellout vibes, and he's always been known to be a bit of a sellout to the Chinese as well, and
he's a whinger. He whinges about everything.
He does.
Like the whole league is catered around him, and he does as he pleases. He's the coach of his team. He's the general manager. We all know that. And he's still,
the GM. Yeah.
Like, what are you complaining about, bro? And when he has, social issues, I'm like, bro, you can't talk about the struggle. You're a billionaire.
Yeah.
You live in a mansion with a butler and mates.
Yeah.
Like, what are you struggling with, your Bitcoin wallet? You know, it's like, I don't know. But that's,
But look, I've always been torn about him because I can't stand him as a personality, but he's also a compulsive liar, which everyone... Have you seen the memes about how he lies?
No.
So there's this whole thing about how he's always lying. Like one time he was in a locker room with a book, and the journalist, you've read the book? He's like, yeah. Like, oh, what do you like about the book? He's like, oh, where do I start? Like, yeah, just tell us something you like about the book.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I guess all of it. Like, it just won't answer the question. But he's got this thing where he's always lying.
There's a thing about him, every photo of him that is reading a book, it's like he's on the first couple of pages.
Yeah.
There's something about that.
Yeah. But as a personality, he's got sellout vibes. But as an athlete, the guy's an absolute freak.
Yeah, he is.
And like for someone to break the scoring record in our lifetime, I don't see it being broken again for a very long time. Now with load management, people take off a game as soon as their pinky's a bit sore.
Yeah, no, he is. He is a freak. He's definitely a freak, and you gotta,
That said, Steph Curry, I wouldn't say on a personal level like he recently came out and endorsed Kamala Harris.
Did he?
Yeah, he was. They put a video of him at the DNC. So did Steve Kerr.
How could anyone with a sound mind endorse somebody like that?
I don't know, man. Especially not Kamala.
You think about Steph Curry. He's got a family. He's got kids. He's a Christian.
Also Christian. Got Bible quotes on his shoes, and not just that. In his endorsement video that was played at the DNC, he said, he was being interviewed on some TV channel. He said, look, she stands for the issues that are most important to me, especially women's issues and their right to choose. And it's like his number one issue was abortion. I was so disappointed, man.
So where do you stand now on being a Steph Curry guy?
It's tough. I can't. It's not. I'm not in a good place.
Yeah,
I'm not in a good place.
I feel you because, I follow the Bulls on social media, and they do these pride rounds, and I'm like, it's sport.
Yeah, I just want to watch the basketball,
are we involving?
Man. Yeah.
Why does this have to happen?
Yeah,
and I think to myself, I should unfollow the Bulls. I haven't unfollowed the Bulls.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Look, I just want to watch the basketball. To be honest,
that's it.
It's been hard because watching Steph Curry, in my opinion, he's the most influential player of the last 30 years. Influential,
changing the game.
He changed how the game's played, and
for the worse, I think.
For the worst, I mean, if you're a 90s guy, you're gonna feel that because in the 90s it was much more physical, get in the paint, muscle up.
You know what? It's not even about the game, watching the game. It's about the new generation of how they play. I watch my nephews and their friends and how they're
all jacking up threes.
Everyone just wants to bomb threes from halfway.
Yeah.
You know, nobody wants to learn how to pass anymore. No one wants to learn set plays, how to screen, how to defend. It's all like, give me the ball. I'm like, bro, you're a center. What are you doing trying to launch the three from, out there? But, that's just the game, right?
But in the 80s and 90s, they would have said the same thing. Those that were probably used to watching in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
saying,
totally.
Look at them now, all just trying to be physical and push people around, and there's no more.
And there's black guys. There's black guys in there now that are jumping higher than us and running faster than us. That's probably what they would be saying.
Yeah, probably. But also think about, the average height of a point guard in the NBA is like 6'3".
Yeah.
Which is like this much shorter than me, right? Yeah. Which Steph Curry's height.
Yeah.
That's the average height of a point guard, the smallest position.
Yeah.
But, way back when, 20 years ago, if you maxed out at 6'3" or 6'4", you're not going to the NBA.
No.
You're just not. But now you can go to the NBA.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And a lot of them will just alive. Yeah, the dream's alive. And what it means is you're bringing in brand new skill sets into the NBA. I still don't think we've seen the full effect of Steph Curry. Yeah. We won't see it for another, I think, 10 to 20 years. Because now all these 5-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds who were inspired by Steph Curry and jacking up the ball.
Totally.
Because it's different. If you're like 20 and you're like, oh, maybe I can make it. I should go hard now. That's not the same as someone who's 4 years old.
Yeah.
And he's inspired by Steph Curry and his dad's inspired by Steph Curry. And he's like, no, we're going to make you the best shooter of all time.
Yeah. All right, listen, my son's not even 1.5 and I've already got a basketball ring in front of him.
Yeah, 100%.
Trying to teach him those skills. So
yeah, is the missus taller, like tall for a female?
She is tall for a female. Yeah. So I think he's already looking like he's going to be a tall kid. But, and thank God he looks like her too.
Yeah.
He's a beautiful boy.
You're real hard on yourself there, man.
Self-deprecation is the number one rule of comedy, man.
The other thing as well that's been a problem for kids growing up to learn basketball is a kid might be tall for his age at 5, 6, 7, 8, even at 15, right? And so they get run through this whole, you're going to be a center program. But then they max out at 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
And that's actually guard height.
Yeah,
in the
that's
NBA,
right. That's right.
But they weren't playing as a
I
guard.
was tall. I was like the tallest kid in primary school in my class. Yeah, and then I stopped growing from the 6th grade. This is like how tall I was, and I just stopped. So, but I was never good enough to make but I was realistic. Like I never said to myself, I want to play in the NBA. I was like, if I train hard enough and I work hard, maybe I can get to the NBL.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
So I was always realistic, but I was definitely never good enough. I never got past the B team in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hard, man. It's hard enough to make the NBL, let alone NBA, a starter on an NBA team.
Did you ever play sports? Were you?
Nah, growing up, we never played sports, man. It was just like our parents were sort of like this.
You'll get
There were 5 of us. No.
Get a job.
There were 5 of us. So it was just like, we can't manage to take all of you to sport. You can play in the backyard. It was like ultra immigrant.
Yeah.
Now
listen to my friends. They got 4 kids. Well, we got to go to the soccer on Saturday morning, and then Billy's got a game on Sunday. Yeah. And they make the effort.
So look, I wish we did, but we didn't. And so I only started playing, but I'm turning 29 this year. I started playing basketball probably 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
Just like in a local comp with my brother and some mates. We still play every Monday night.
29, bro.
And
enjoy it.
I
enjoy the knees. They're still working.
For now.
They're still for now.
I'm lugging away. I'm lugging around a bit of weight, man. So it's not always easy, but I wish I started earlier, man. Look, it's not about trying to get to wherever, but I think competitive sport's really good, especially for young males.
We should get some shots up one day.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
That'd be good. But you're not going to like complain about your knee or something if
No,
something goes
listen,
wrong.
I sit out on the perimeter and just bomb threes, man. That's kind of way.
The Steph Curry
I am
effect.
inspired by Steph.
Inspired.
Well, I'm not really inspired, but I'm more inspired by laziness than Steph Curry. I was never a fast guy. So
we could invite Father Ben, but he will spend about 18 minutes wrapping up his knees with all these contraptions beforehand. Walking around like a robot because it's so stiff from all the wrapping, But
can Father Ben ball?
Yeah.
Can he ball?
Yeah, I'm not sure how his knees are these days.
Okay,
but he can.
We're about the same age. I think it's an even playing field between myself and Father Ben.
I think so, but again, I think he's carrying a little bit more, weight on the joints.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Don't get me wrong, Abuna, you're in fighting fit form, but
Abuna, talking trash about you, bro.
I reckon we could say that a bit of a Father Ben versus Anthony Salame, first to 11 or 21.
But and I'm not saying I can beat Father Ben, but do you have to give that respect to the father? Like,
no, on the court.
On the court.
On the court.
Okay.
God bless his consecrated hands, but it's every man for himself.
Okay.
May the best man win.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to get like psychotic, like Michael Jordan psychotic.
Yeah.
Take it personal.
Take it personal.
Make up a rumor that Father Ben said about you.
I heard you talking to Father Ben about how MJ padded his stats. Is that a legit thing or is that just rumors?
Yeah, it wasn't himself.
Yeah, the league was.
But basically, games that were played at home in Chicago, there were some games where he had more steals than the other team had turnovers.
You know what's funny? I don't think anybody would see that and think of him less as the GOAT. I don't know. I wouldn't.
No. Again, like I told Father Ben, I don't think of him less. I just think that it was an age where there was not as much social media. And
everything was probably written by pen and paper. There was no computers.
But even in terms of how he's viewed, there are some games we don't have footage of for some reason, right? And it's like there was no social media. And so when there's no social media, there's a bit more mystery to a person.
Totally.
And that mystery sort of builds up that GOAT aura that he had.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? So I'm not denying that he's the...
So would you say he is the greatest player that has played the game, or does LeBron James?
I think I would say he's the greatest player. Yeah. Look, a good way that I've heard it put is LeBron James is the greatest basketball player we've ever seen.
Okay.
But Michael Jordan is the greatest player of all time.
Well, what's the difference?
I think one is more skill based.
Yeah.
And one is more everything. But everything from skills to delivering in the finals, to carrying a team on their back, to showing up when it matters, to consistency, maybe the height of the prime, how long he sustained it. I
would argue all of that means you're the best player.
Well,
LeBron's,
isn't he second in all assists all time?
Yeah, no, he's a freak.
You know what I mean? So
he always has and I guess MJ always had the ball in his hands too, but maybe I'm just being a LeBron hater. Which my friends call me out on all the time.
Oh, look, I do that as well. And I think a lot of people that watch Jordan, it's like if you even question, like, oh, Michael Jordan, are you sure? No, he was the greatest player to live. Just relax a little bit. It's okay. He is the greatest. He is the greatest.
But my friends.
Let's just add in a bit of nuance into the conversation.
Totally.
Because you've got LeBron James, who's literally the oldest player in the league, right? And he's still averaging over 25 points a game.
It's phenomenal. It is phenomenal.
His first all-time points, which is freaking insane, but then his second all-time assists, I think after Stockton.
Yeah, Stockton.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think rebounds, is he top 10 or top 5? Like, just in all stats. He's a freak. Yeah. Like, if you were even one of those, you would be considered a Hall of Famer plus more.
Correct.
He's all of those.
Yeah.
Like, it's...
But if you stick around for 20 years and you're a good player, you're right. You're right.
It's Michael Jordan came back.
Yeah.
What? Did that break? Is that the reason why he couldn't, play like
Michael
he used
Jordan,
to?
When he came back, it was different. Like, he came back with the Wizards. He owned the team. He was like, let me play some games with my employees.
Yeah. But that's but mindset is a part of the conversation.
Yeah, totally.
For LeBron to do what he's done for that period of time,
yes,
that consistently.
No, I'm happy to publicly say that LeBron James is a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, it's tough. I would still put like Michael Jordan, given that there was no social media, how famous, how rich he got. Like he was just on another level when it came to stardom.
Totally.
You know, and
it was the two Michaels in the 90s.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan. That's who the kids wanted to be like. Even I had the Michael Jackson shoes, LA gear.
Oh, did you?
With the silver buttons on it.
Yeah.
I think that was the only gift I ever asked for that I received. Did you ever receive the gifts that you wanted growing up? I never got the gifts I wanted.
Rarely. Yeah. Every now and then we'd get them. And when we were when we reached the age of reason, which is like 7, it was probably like 10 when they did this. It was like, we're not doing presents anymore.
At 7?
No, I think it was like 10.
That's pretty young for no more gifts.
Yeah. It was just like, listen, in this family, if you need something, it doesn't matter how much it costs, we get it for you. But if you don't need it, why are we going to get it, you know?
It sounds like my father came to your house to raise your family as well.
I reckon they had a group chat going, bro, very early. They had a group chat going how they did this stuff, you know? But that said, I remember some good gifts. So I remember I got the rugby league game on PlayStation.
Wow.
That was something special. And when I was a bit younger, I got Bionicles. Do you remember Bionicles? They were these weird, like, robotic toys, man.
Okay.
You, like, twist it and the arm goes up and stuff.
Was that in the 90s?
No. It would have been 2000.
Okay, yeah, that was, I was finished high school by then.
You were too cool for any of that
I was like,
stuff.
Trying to discover the world.
Yeah. Have you been to the US? Have you watched?
I have.
Watched some NBA?
I have watched some NBA. I went to Chicago to watch the Bulls.
When was this?
This was 2015. Derrick Rose.
That's post-injury Rose, isn't it?
First time injury. Yeah. I did go watch some NBA then, and
on a side note, I think Derrick Rose is the greatest champion that never was.
Yeah,
he's the saddest story in the NBA for me. Like every time I see highlights, I'm like, man, this guy was destined for something great, man.
He was
MVP at 21,
youngest of all time.
Yeah.
It breaks your heart sometimes when you see and the same injury happening over and over again. Everyone loved him. Just hard work, determination, kept his mouth shut, never used to, hear him talk about anything but basketball.
Yeah.
But before that, all my trips to America, man, I was in the zone for comedy, and I didn't even think about the NBA, I was just go. And plus I'd go there in the summer usually, which was off season. So
do they love the Aussie comics there?
Yeah, they do. It's, when you're in a new place, you kind of the fish out of water. You're the guy from out of town, and I was always well received, and I was lucky enough to tour with some cool comedians back then, and really do some cool gigs. So no, it's always been positive in the States and Canada. But I'm planning to do more. I took a hiatus of stand-up comedy. I mean, since I started radio, between 2013, 2019, I didn't do many gigs. It's when you're waking up 3:30 in the morning, man. You can't go out to the clubs to do sets at night. You know what I mean? And then the last 2 years I was on radio here, I didn't do much. So this year I've kind of dedicated most of my time into stand-up and doing the children's books. And I'm looking forward to, doing my next hour, and it's kind of I've relit the flame inside me for stand-up comedy, and I'm loving it. And like I told you before, it's a different kind of voice, It's not the young Anthony where I was a little bit outlandish, and so I'm interested to see where this takes me.
No, that's awesome, man. Well, I'm keen. I'm keen to come along to a show sometime.
You should come out.
Yeah.
You should come out actually in a couple of weeks. I'm doing some shows I haven't really done. Like it's like a work in progress where I've got a notepad on stage and I'm going to be going through. Because when you do an hour show, it's usually jokes that you've been doing over the last 6 to 8 months probably, and you've crafted them and you've tightened them up, and So what I did with this show, it's kind of like an opportunity to just do a bunch of hour sets over a few nights. So I've made them dirt cheap tickets, and I'm advertising it as the show's called A Work in Progress. So you should come out.
Awesome.
I'd love you to come out and
yeah, for sure. Send us the details. I might give it a share. I got probably at least 5-6 people listening.
Okay,
at one time.
Wow.
So yeah. Do they have enough seats?
Maybe we shouldn't put. Don't share.
Maybe I won't
maybe share the next one.
I'll share a private link, for premium prices.
I mean, no, I've actually chatted to a few people that really enjoy this show.
No, I appreciate it.
So no, like seriously, it's I think you're an important voice. You're a real voice, which is something we don't really have these days. I think when someone's got a microphone in front of their face, they feel the need to
put on a bit of a show.
Yeah, just to maybe keep it a little bit watered down, so we don't offend too many people. But I think,
and we did well tonight. All I did was offend all women, so I could have done worse. Could have offended men as well.
Yeah,
so
maybe offended half the world's population.
That's right. Yeah,
but no, man, it's important what you're doing, and God bless you. I wish you all the best.
No, I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on. Honestly, I think we're going to be running this back, hopefully in the future.
Yeah, let's do that, man.
We need to do I think we just need to have our own segment where we just complain about everything.
Yeah. And let's like next time, let's cut to the chase. Don't worry about the story. We just get into the
nitty-gritty,
talking trash about people and basketball.
Emmanuel Macron's wife really being a man.
Yeah, is that legit?
Honestly, I believe it.
Yeah,
I'm sold on it.
What about Michelle Obama?
I'm not quite sure there, but is Barack Obama's called her Michael a couple of times accidentally, it seems.
Well, why are you not there with Michelle?
I just think the evidence for Brigitte Macron is so overwhelming. It's
and
hard.
What about I don't know if this is I don't know how below the belt you get on this show.
Whatever.
I've seen videos of Michelle Obama, and they're slow it down. I don't know if this is
which was dancing on Ellen.
Yeah, has that been superimposed? Or
I think so. I think so. I'm not quite sure.
See, this is what I mean by there's too much out there, man.
And look, there is a pretty strong theory that Barack Obama is actually gay.
Strong theory.
Yeah.
I thought that was obvious. I thought everyone knew that.
Oh, I thought so too. But I mean, when I say strong theory, it's it's become a bit more mainstream.
Yeah.
Like Tucker Carlson had a guy on his show who's I've had sex with Barack Obama. And he tells the story in a lot of detail.
Yeah.
As to how he met him, the interaction. And so, it's no surprise.
Yeah.
Nothing surprises me anymore about all these guys.
We should just one day, if you ever want to do a conspiracy theory show, I'd love to come on, man.
We'll call it shit they're not telling you.
Yeah, I'd be down for that, man.
It'd be good. We definitely have to look. We're going to start with Justin Trudeau for sure.
Okay,
because we don't like him.
No.
He even looks like a girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
His face is a bit too soft.
I remember when I first met my wife. This is prior to COVID, all of that, and I told her, "Hey, your prime minister is not a good guy." And she's like, "No, he's great to immigrants," and then a couple of years later, she's like, "Yeah, you're on the money. This guy's
you got her over the line."
Yeah,
it's because people in Canada probably don't. They need that perspective, the outside perspective. Like Justin Trudeau's, oh man, his skin looks soft. You know what I mean?
He's a bad actor.
Yeah,
I never have seen one of his speeches and been like, "Oh, this guy's being so genuine."
Yeah.
It's always like he's just trying to put something on.
Yeah, for sure.
But
then we got Macron. We'll go with him next, I reckon.
Okay.
Even if the story as they officially tell it is true, you have a 26-year-old woman who left her husband and child for a 16-year-old boy. Emmanuel Macron was 16 when he met his wife. Yeah. That's the officials. I'm pretty sure it was 16. Yeah, 16 or 15. And she was either 25 or 26. That's the official story.
She would have been about 60 by that time. She looks way older than him.
Yeah.
It's a messed up place, bro.
It's a messed up place.
That's why you got to shine your light, bro.
Sure.
We got to shine our light,
Yeah, man. Well, look, again, thanks for coming on.
Bro,
we're definitely going to be running this back.
It's honestly a pleasure. And this is the first time we meet. So,
yeah.
I appreciate you having me on. And
no, you're most welcome.
And I had a fun chat, and I'm looking forward to doing it again, bro.
Yeah, me too. And hopefully we can throw up some shots soon. Maybe
I'll be hitting you up. I'm getting over my hernia surgery, so give me a couple weeks.
You've already started with the injuries and the...
That's the way, right?
Lebs, man, already.
Just water it down. Yeah,
start early.
No, we'll do that. We'll do that. God bless
Anthony,
you, brother.
A pleasure. God bless you too.
Thank you, my man.
Until next time.
Cheers, brother.
Thanks.